Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody, and this is Mike Binko with Startup Maryland and CloudTrack, and I'm joined by Robbie Melton from TEDCO, who will kind of be our pilot for a conversation and a discussion of what is involved with doing a good startup pitch. And as you know, this is related to the Startup Maryland Pitch Across Maryland tour and celebration of entrepreneurship that we're going to be kicking off in September. And we thank you guys for joining us. Many of you as entrepreneurs are probably interested in what is the Pitch Across Maryland. If you haven't joined us last year, we'll talk a little bit about what it is and what it isn't, and then what happens when the bus goes around the state, and what we do with the tour partners and co-hosts who join us around the 3-week tour. We'll also get into a little bit of kind of what the pitches are and aren't on the bus. We do a little bit of the unique spin on the pitch scenario, where we do it with a video studio in the back of the tour bus that we have. So we'll show you some pictures of that and kind of talk a little bit about what's involved there. But let me introduce Robbie. Robbie, give a little perspective on kind of your role with TEDCO and obviously your team's role in kind of helping the folks out across the state.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk. As Mike said, I'm Robbie Melton. I'm the Director of Entrepreneurial Innovation, and I am the coordinator and creator of educational programs for startup companies. We do quarterly workshops as well as support the area incubators. We also have a program out in the rural areas of Maryland called Rural Business Innovation Initiative, where we have mentors working with companies. So if you're out in the rural regions, we've got our mentors to help you get ready for the pitch. And TEDCO is very excited. This is our second year sponsoring the Pitch Bus. It's a great way to just create entrepreneurial buzz, really recognize the achievements of all you guys out there that are really making a difference in our society. So we're happy to be a part of the bus.
Yeah, and TEDCO has been a stalwart partner with Startup Maryland. They've helped us from the beginning when we launched last spring, and we're really one of the key founding angels, if you will, for the Pitch Across Maryland last year, and one of the first organizations in as a full tour sponsor this year. So, as Startup Maryland, what are we? For those of you who aren't familiar with that, let me give you a little snapshot of kind of what we are and what we aren't. Startup Maryland was founded and forged out of the national movement called Startup America. We've joined 42 states around the country now, and actually it's moving into an international initiative in launching programs that are going to help startups and entrepreneurs really grow and inflect their businesses on a couple of fronts. We kind of call it for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Those of us who founded Startup Maryland and are involved as what we call Startup Maryland Champions, which is a core group of about 50 to 60 CEOs of startup companies that have rolled up their sleeves and started to help us with some of the programming. We are all in the process of building and growing, inflecting, and hopefully exiting, when the timing is right, startup companies. We launched last year, as I mentioned, at the University of Maryland. We're very fortunate that on the national board of Startup America, Kevin Plank from Under Armour is a board member and has gotten very interested in what we're doing at the local level and community level as Startup Maryland. So we have great support from various levels. We're part of a cross-regional initiative that with the Startup Virginia and the Startup DC teams, we really want to kind of put the spotlight and the focus on the density of entrepreneurship and innovation and the wide variety of industry sectors and technology categories that are covered in the Mid-Atlantic. And obviously, our attention is going to be laser focused on Maryland companies and opportunities. So where does Startup Maryland stack nationally? The metric that Startup America has used is startup density, and the way they've looked at it is how many startups per million population per capita are registered, active, and involved with Startup Maryland. So we rank currently number 2, right behind Startup DC, which they kind of skew the data a little bit, but that's okay. And we weren't always there. So when we launched last year, of the 34 states that had launched, we were, I think, number 28 for the first couple of months right out of the gate. At our launch event, we had a lot of people join us, and then we kind of hit a little plateau. So as we were trying to decide how are we going to jumpstart this initiative and really start moving our density forward and get entrepreneurs engaged, we had an idea that wasn't ours to begin with. It was actually Startup Iowa that had an idea of putting entrepreneur startups and geeks on a bus and going to South by Southwest. They didn't actually do it, but then Julie Lenzer-Kirk, my co-chair, and I were sitting at that national summit, and we said, you know what, we should have a bus go around the state of Maryland and discover all the entrepreneurs and startups that are just under the radar but ready to move forward in growing their business. So that's really when we decided the Pitch Across Maryland should be something that we do. Last year it was kind of the first version, unknown what we were going to find. We would have been happy if we had 30 or 40 companies come out and do their pitch on the bus. We had 168, and we had about 250 companies and startups that showed interest and came out and joined us at the tour stop. So at that point, as we started to do the 2.5-week tour last year in September, we started to really move up the ranks quickly as far as the states that had launched under Startup America. So after the tour was done, in a 3-week period, we had jumped from number 28 to number 4, and then in the last 9 months since we ended that program, we've moved up to number 2. So just wanted to give you a little perspective of kind of how we've evolved over the year and 3 months that we've been in existence. We are a loose federation of entrepreneurs with very limited resources, so we do rely on partners in the ecosystem, so economic development agencies from counties and state level, with DBED also joining us as a full tour sponsor this year. Also the Incubator and Accelerator Network in Maryland. We're very fortunate in Maryland to have a very rich and dense community of accelerators and incubators helping entrepreneurs move their businesses forward. In addition, the service provider community, the active investors, venture capital and angels, and service providers are also organizations that we reach out with to sponsor and get involved with the tour stops on the tour and other programs that we do within Startup Maryland. So the Champions campaign is something that we launched early this year to really get the folks that had registered for Startup Maryland, the ones that were really interested in helping their peers and themselves move forward. We asked them to join us in discovering what are the big areas and big ideas that we should focus on as Startup Maryland. What do they need, realizing that we have limited resources? So a couple things bubbled up to the top. We really came across 4 focus areas for Startup Maryland, and they all happen to begin with the letter C, so we call them our 4 C's: connection, celebration, coaching, and capital. And as you can imagine, the celebration side of this equation is really what the tour and the Pitch Across Maryland is all about. So I'll kind of pause there, and then we'll come back if there's any questions at the end as far as what it is and what it isn't. So essentially, we wrap a big tour bus. Think of a concert tour bus, kind of a mobile home on steroids. We wrap it in a Startup Maryland brand with the Maryland Pride theme, the flag on the back, and it's highly visible as it's going down the road, and a great photo op for anybody at the stops that we do. And in the back of the bus, instead of having just a little conversation pit or a coffee table, we've set up a video studio. And we're inviting, at every tour stop that we go to, entrepreneurs to come onto the bus and do a 2 to 4 minute pitch of their business. And we promise 2 things. We'll take their video, render it, edit it, make a nice little condensed 2.5 minute video out of it, and we'll make that embed code available to you after the fact. We'll post it up on YouTube, and you'll be able to access that. Use it for your own purposes. So, a couple $100, couple $1,000 worth of video production services that the entrepreneurs can get to promote their business. In addition to that, we do 2 competitions after the tour is over. One is just kind of a fun thing that we do. We call it the fan favorite vote-off. And when we post the videos up online, anybody who pitched and any of their supporters are asked to engage your social network. Get the word out that your video is up as a part of the competition for Pitch Across Maryland. Get your family, your friends, your pets, go online and view your video, and the number of views is kind of how we rank the fan favorite. So that's just something fun that we do to kind of boost the awareness, allow you guys to engage your communities and your network around your videos. But then we also get a little bit serious about it. And we have a panel of experts, active venture capitalists, active angels, serial entrepreneurs that have started multiple companies. They come in, and as a panel, they review every video that we capture on the tour. And for a 2-month period after the tour ends in September, they review the videos and then cull them down or winnow them down into a group of 8 videos. And these are the 8 finalists of the Pitch Across Maryland. The lens that these experts are going to be looking at the videos and digesting the pitches is who has the greatest potential for strong growth. And there's a lot of factors involved there. There's no real one metric that they use. It really is dependent on the perspective of the investor or the serial entrepreneur as to what strong growth means. It could be jobs driver. It could be potential for venture capital investment. It could be the best potential for an acquisition, or it could be the best potential to grow a wildly profitable company that becomes the next superstar visible company in Maryland. We're not going to dictate what that is. It really is up to the expert. Then we're very fortunate that with TEDCO's sponsorship of Pitch Across Maryland, they also do the Entrepreneur Expo in November. And our Great 8 are given the opportunity at that expo to pitch in front of the full room, a couple hundred folks from the startup ecosystem, and then another panel of experts will choose a winner and a runner-up. And they get automatic entry into the Invest Maryland Challenge, some of the venture conferences that are around the region, and a host of mentorship activities after the fact. So it really runs from September through November when the Entrepreneur Expo is going on. So that's kind of our long tail of the dog, is the competition that keeps you guys in front of the media, your peers, influencers, investors for about a 3-month period. And Robbie, what's the date for the expo this year in November?
It's November 18th.
Okay, so mark the calendar, gang. That's a full day of really dense value of learning things about what it takes to be an investable company. Industry sectors are highlighted for where's the hot innovations in cybersecurity or manufacturing or bio and life sciences. So keep that on your calendar and radar. So with that, let's jump into the reason for this call, which is a little bit of a primer on what does it take to do a good pitch. And pitches come in all shapes and sizes. You can be in front of a room of 500 people at something like NAVA, Capital Connection, or the Southeast Venture Conference. You can do it in a private room with a small group of investors, or you could do it on a video. And that happens to be the version that we're going to train you for here. There are some subtleties to doing a pitch on video because of the shelf life. It's going to be out there and visible, and you're not necessarily in control of it for that long period of time. So you want to make sure that you're kind of hitting on all cylinders when you do that pitch. So let me hand off to Robbie here, and she's going to walk you through some of the basic tenets and components of doing a strong pitch.
Okay.
Robbie, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me get my slideshow going.
There we go.
Okay,
And that's the bus, everybody. You got it.
Yep, this is the bus. So it's a lot of fun. As Mike said, it's a tricked out commuter bus where we travel around the state. And in the back is our video studio. So it's a lot of fun. And we actually get a lot of looks on people driving around. So we always say, get on the bus, and we're going to be hitting the road the 9th through the 27th. Now, for preparing for the pitch, it's not just about the day, it's before you actually get up to pitch. So you want to relax, don't stress out about it. It's a day to have fun, so you want to make your presentation fun. If you have a product or prototype that you want to bring, you know, as long as it's not too big, or actually you can have it out in the parking lot wherever your bus is, if it is big, and you know, bring that with you, because we like little props so people can see what you're doing. You know, some people did food products and they actually brought some samples, which we liked. So if you have a product or prototype, you might want to think about, is it something that you would want to show in the video? Also, a lot of people stress about, well, what do I wear? You want to look nice because, again, it's going to be videotaped, and this is something that you're going to be showing, you know, if you have a website or if you have a Facebook page. So you want to make sure you dress appropriately. Now, and that varies, again, from company to company. Because if you're IT, you know, jeans and a nice shirt might be good. Whatever you feel comfortable in, but you do want to look, somewhat professional. You don't want to dress slovenly. The other thing you want to wear is confidence. So you need to project an air of confidence about what you're doing. But again, really, it's about relaxing and having fun. So this is just a group of some of the past presenters we had last year in Annapolis in front of the bus. So the pitch stop, what you can expect is some of the stops you're going to have some programs. So you might have a speaker or you might have a workshop. A lot of people, if it's a nice day, just hang out in front of the bus and talk. And it's a great way to meet other companies and learn what other people are doing. We also have media come to many of the stops, a lot of local media, because this is a big thing to come to your area. So you might be prepared for that. Oops, what happened? There we go. This is a picture of the video studio. You can see Governor O'Malley actually came and did a little pitch with us in the back of the studio. So you have lights back there. It's a very small area, so people aren't coming in and sitting and watching you get videotaped. So it'll be just you, Mike, and if we have another videographer, that person might be there. But it's basically a closed space, so you don't need to be nervous that everybody's going to be watching you, because we do need to have a bit quiet. So it's a lot of fun. So your 3 to 4 minutes of fame, the first thing you want to do is introduce yourself. Say your name, what your company name is, and then you want to say what your product or service is. So many times people start talking about the benefits of their product or service, but no one has a clue what it is. So you want to make sure you say exactly, what your product or service is. And then when you're thinking about what to talk, you want to think about what's the single most important thing about your company that people need to know about. If I were to walk away and you could only tell me one thing about your company, you want to make sure that you talk about that. So is it a big problem that's being solved? Maybe your technology or your company is so much better than the competition. So, you might play to the unique characteristics of your product or service. Some people have huge market potential, huge revenue potential, so you want to put that into the presentation as well. And then also if you have a team, I'm hoping you do have a team, but if you have some great qualifications of a team, like we had one company, all their teammates were like ex-VCs or serial entrepreneurs, so you want to maybe spend just a minute or two. You don't need to go into a lot of details. Again, you only have 3 to 4 minutes, and there's a lot you can say in the 3 to 4 minute time frame, because you can just touch on the highlights. Again, stating what's the most single important thing about each of those areas that you want to present, and put that in there. And then in your final wrap-up, you want to, thank, people for watching your video. Again, state your name, your company name, and then if you have a website or Facebook page, you might want to mention that so people can go to it to get more information. You don't want to spew out any kind of contact information, because people are not going to have really time to write that down. That's too much detail. But really, thank the audience. Website or Facebook is another thing, how you want to wrap it up.
That's important. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to show, this is Annapolis at the pitch bus stop. And then some tips for success when you're talking. Did you want to add something before I move on?
I just think that the thought of kind of being concise with your messaging. 2 to 3 minutes go really quick in front of a camera. And last year we were actually surprised how well everybody did as far as doing it in 1 or 2 takes. And if you do screw up in the middle of it, we do stop and start again. That is something we do. But we strongly encourage people, and you see Robbie's last tip for success is practice, practice, practice. That cannot be understated. But we will work with you guys as you're in there to kind of help you before we even hit record to feel comfortable in the environment. Prior to you going into the room, unless you're the first one, there will be mentors out front that will kind of engage you in a dialogue and kind of loosen you up and get you comfortable before you go into the video area. So just wanted to highlight that. We try to make it as comfortable as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, people will be there. I or some TEDCO staff are going to be on the bus too. If you want to just practice before you get on the bus, we're happy to do that. So when you're in there videotaping, it's important to breathe. Don't hold your breath. Smile. Again, speak confidently. Try not to be nervous. Again, as Mike said, if we need to, we'll stop and then pick it up. But, just relax. Make it personal. So make your story, if you can, personal. I was looking at some of the final 8 videos, which you can also watch on the Startup Maryland website. You can see what the 8 finalists pitched. And one of them, one of her product is something that came out of a personal story for her. So make it personal, sort of to draw the audience in. Also look directly into the camera. Some people came with notes, but you don't really want to be sitting there reading your notes. It's only 3 to 4 minutes. You know your company very well, so you should be able to memorize what it is, or you might have maybe 4 keywords written on your fingers to help you in case you, get a little lost. But really memorize what you're going to say, and then practice a lot. Practice over and over. Practice in the shower. Practice with your kids. Practice with your dog or your neighbor, so that when you get in there, you'll feel, much more comfortable in there, so you can really just, hit a home run. I think that's, always the key. One of the things I used to do drum, and I always tell people to practice what they're going to say in a different dialect or just different accent and be silly. Because the sillier you can be, the more relaxed you are about what you're saying. So here's like last year, somebody makes, this is Luke Foods on the left, and he actually brought samples of his tomato nectar, which was a lot of fun, and he brought his little banner. So feel free to do that. Feel free to bring, your product. If you have a banner like that, we make a kind of a fun day. And there's Julie and Mike, so you can see what they look like. We're all wearing the Startup Maryland bus, and this is one of the women that came out and pitched her company out on the Eastern Shore. I think that's all I have, Mike.
Great. Actually, that was the first person who pitched on the bus in that picture that you had up there. So
yeah,
and she wasn't even scheduled to pitch. So it's kind of one of those things where run it back from here, Robbie. Hold on.
Yeah.
There we go. So it's kind of one of those things where, as much as we can, we like to know who's being qualified to pitch at each stop. And that's where we rely on our tour partners and the co-hosts for each stop to really reach out to their community of startups, folks that they know about, but then also put the word out and kind of find those undiscovered gems, the diamonds in the rough that are under the radar, in the midst, but may need some resources to kind of move their business forward. Some of the best successes from last year, which we'll also be highlighting as we go around the tour, were individuals that were really at a beginning stage, almost at idea stage, or they may have put their business model together. They had some connections. They were starting to forge a team of folks that kind of take this idea forward. And those are the ones that really can benefit the most from the programs that we're doing with Startup Maryland. So, Robbie mentioned that if you have a strong team, highlight that. But also realize that if you're looking to add people to your team or find a co-founder or find a finance person or a marketing person, that's one of the key programs that we have under the Connection scene for Startup Maryland. We're working with a group called Co-Founders Lab, actually a Maryland startup company. They actually won the Pitch Across Maryland last year, and they've really been hitting on all cylinders in the last 9 months. They have a system and a platform that actually allows you to put yourself out there and your idea and find team members to help you take it forward. And they've really gotten a lot of traction nationally, and you know, we're one of the big successes that we found during the tour.
Yeah,
Others
Mike,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, and I actually just talked to a woman who pitched last year, and even though she wasn't one of the final 8, she has used her video clip over and over again with potential clients.
Absolutely.
So she's used different snippets of it, so it's been a big win for her.
Yep, and that's what it's all about. Is, you know, we'll make sure that you look good in the edited final product, and you know, whether you nail it for the full 4 minutes, we're going to condense it down and take out the verb pauses and the ums and the ahs and the if you look off camera left while you're thinking about something, we'll try to do as much as we can. And you know, you can, like Robbie said, you can go up on the Startup Maryland YouTube site. You can see every video from last year, or just the grade 8 or the fan favorite, and you know, it gives you an idea of how people did it last year. And you know, some were a little bit more focused than others, but that's okay, and that's part of getting out there and doing it. Nothing will help you get more polished in your approach than practicing for this and doing it. And whether you do it or not, I would still practice pitching your business in that 2 to 4 minute window, and a 20 and 30 second version of it, because as you go through considering whether this is something you really want to, you know, put a good portion of your family's time and attention behind, or your resources behind, you want to gauge what people's reaction to your idea or your story. And planning for a video pitch can also help you plan for doing that 30-second elevator pitch at a networking event, or the 2-minute or even 30-minute pitch if you get in front of a room of investors that might actually be interested in putting some money in play. So that's, you know, in a nutshell, that's what it is. Here's the rough schedule of where we're going to be, as Robbie mentioned, from September 9 through 27. I think we have 32 stops this year that we're going to be making. I'm going to scroll through here, but this is up on the website, so go to startupmaryland.org or startupmd. There's the same photo that that Robbie had. Those are actually students from the Anne Arundel County school system. They're high school students that were in the STEM and STEAM programs, so science, technology, and what's the other one? I'm drawing a blank on it, Robbie. What does STEM stand for?
Science, technology, engineering, math.
Engineering and math, yeah. I wasn't good at math, so that's why I forgot that one. Sorry. So that's it in a nutshell. If you go to the website, for those of you that are interested in pitching, if you know an organization, so look at the schedule first. And if you see the name of an organization, an incubator, a county, or a corporate partner that you have a connection with, reach out to them, because they're actively qualifying entrepreneurs and registering them for the pitch. If you don't have any connection there, that's fine. Come to the startupmd.org site and click, or scroll over Join, and click on Get on the Bus Pitch Registration. This will take you to a site that we've set up. It's kind of a form that allows you to let us know who you are, you know, give you some perspective on what we're doing in the tour, and then as you scroll down, there's actually a link to the grade 8 videos from last year. And as you scroll down, we just ask for some basic information, what best describes the stage of your company, and we kind of break it down in 4 categories: idea, startup, ramp up, and speed up. And you know, kind of the parameters for what we define as each are in there. Which of the following funding sources have you engaged in launching or growing your business? So friends and family, research grants, working capital, traditional bank loans, or venture capital. The industry sector that best represents or most closely aligns with your startup. A couple typos in there I need to square away. And then if you're already affiliated with a tour stop location or a co-host, or if you're not, which stop around the tour would be the one that you would prefer to pitch at? And then we'll do some matchmaking behind the scenes and actually introduce you to folks at the tour stop that you want to pitch at. If they're already filled up, we may, you know, put a number 2 or number 3 preference in there, and then we'll find a place for you. We do expect to have about 150 pitches this year again, but we're ready and equipped to handle about 200. So we've tried to streamline the process a little bit more. But best way to start is get registered and let us know you're out there, and we'll start aligning you with some resources that can help you grow your business. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. This webinar will be it's being recorded, and we're going to place it up on the YouTube site for replay. So come back and scroll through it and listen to some of the other guidelines. Reach out to us, and TEDCO particularly is probably one of the best organizations that can help the earlier stage companies find resources and connections and mentors that are meaningful at the right time and the right stage for your development. And then we have programs that we're doing to really help you, take your game to the next level. I'm going to try and pull up something here if I can find it. I may not be able to find it. But one of those programs I wanted to highlight is our Raise Your Game Bootcamp. It's something that we did with our Startup Champions team. Really was instrumental in helping us forge this and kind of get it together. And it's essentially a 6-month program that allows entrepreneurs to learn from each other. The big factor that we're trying to achieve as Startup Maryland is to create a dialogue between entrepreneurs to help each other out. So if you are a really early stage and it's your first startup, you have a lot of questions that you're either going to have to ask to a service provider like a lawyer, accountant, public relations and marketing people. But before you do that, you're probably better served if you sit in a room with your peers and maybe folks who have done 3 or 4 businesses and know the pitfalls and the answers to your questions. Before you ask that question in a public setting, it often is helpful to talk to other peers and other entrepreneurs and ask them, how did you do this? How did you incorporate? What's the difference between an LLC, a C Corp, and an S Corp? How do you do a capitalization table in getting ready to raise some money? How do you do a financial model? And what are some of the subtleties that you need to keep in mind when you're doing that? These are all, topics that we like to highlight in the boot camp program that we're doing called Raise Your Game. We're very fortunate to have a lot of good high visibility entrepreneurs supporting us in that effort, and it's something that we hope folks that join us and we discover in the Pitch Across Maryland will then also feel that that boot camp environment is something that they might benefit from and join us for the event. They happen monthly. Trying to scroll down to get the topics here. Essentially, these are the 6 topics that we focus on. How to be a strong CEO leader. That was actually led by Kevin Plank. That happened last month. Last month. Starting up, best practices when forming your company and avoiding pitfalls. That was this month, and that was Lily Bangforth. Planning for financial success, virtualizing your company, go-to-market strategies, and then raising capital and exit road mapping. Life cycle stages, financing options, and how do you exit your company if that's something that's a goal for your future. So just keep in mind that that's available to you as well. You can go online and register at this site here. And that's it for now. Robbie, any last-minute thoughts before we kind of exit here? I know you're going to be doing some of these sessions with some of the co-hosts that are planning their tour stops. And this is, like I said, going to be available up online on the YouTube site as a replay. And we're happy to take questions, directly if you want to reach out to us, or there is an option to kind of raise your hand and ask a question here. So maybe we'll take 5 or 10 minutes, Robbie, and see if there's any questions.
That would be fine. Like you say, out in the rural areas of Maryland, we do have the TEDCO mentors that are there to help you practice your pitch, and they're willing to, make suggestions and pointers on how to pitch. And it's just a great opportunity to get out there and get your company known. I highly encourage everybody to participate in the Pitch Bus. And it's just a lot of fun. So,
it sure is. And, as diverse of industries as, when we were on the Eastern Shore, we had folks that are working on enzymes to clean chicken coops. Purdue Chicken is a huge, and others are huge producers on the Eastern Shore. And dealing with the remediation of that waste in the Chesapeake Bay watershed was something important. Then we moved up the bay a little further, and there's dense manufacturing hubs in Pocomoke and Stevensville, Paul Reed Smith Guitars. We stopped off there, and we're going to do it again this year because they've got a new guitar line that's coming out that they're going to promote. And they're, we're hoping to get Jack or Paul to pitch on the bus about that new guitar line. And then you have oyster aquaculture. So Hooper's Island Oysters, we're actually going to be visiting them as one of the stops this year, and they're going to highlight where they've come in the year since. Then we have Ray Cooper at Imagine IPD, wind turbine concept that isn't yet prototyped, but is well on its way. And Robbie is was very in tune with Ray's development over the last year, and connected him with a lot of resources to do the data modeling and the analytics to make sure that there was a there in his concept. And then other folks that kind of, obviously Co-Founders Lab, they're going to be hosting the stop in Rockville as kind of a little block party at their offices, a little bit more of a festive environment there, and a real dense network of entrepreneurs who are looking to find team members. So we're bringing some of the startups that pitched last year that had really good momentum in the last year, and really our case studies for what this is all about, to highlight what can happen if you surround yourself with peers, resources, and folks in the ecosystem that can help you move forward. Robbie, I don't see any questions coming in, so you did a heck of a job.
All right.
Once again, if you guys do have a need to follow up or an interest, we go to the website Startup Maryland or Startup MD. Either one will get you to the same place, .org. We're not at .com, we're .org. Cruise around there. You'll find a lot of information about last year's pitch, a lot of videos and some good segments up there, and then details for what's coming this year. Also, if you do participate and you're interested, mark your calendar for the Friday the 27th. That evening, 6 to 9, is going to be what we call the Innovation Celebration. That's our final party. Last year we did it at Merriweather. We are soon going to be announcing the location, and it's a not-to-miss event. We're teaming with Baltimore Innovation Week this year, and it's going to be a really nice event to kind of highlight all the culminations of Baltimore Innovation Week, as well as the Pitch Across Maryland tour. And we have a very cool event lined up for that evening of the 27th, so mark your calendar right now. So with that, Robbie, thank you for your time and expertise and perspectives, and thank everybody for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you and having you get on the bus. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Mike.